Okay. Okay, economic overview of the SR&ED program. And what some people are seeing as a shift in the amount of money from tax credits to grants. And that basically the Harper governments said that they were going to do this back in 2007. They basically published papers back then that said, here's 4 industries that are strategic to Canada, being energy, medical biotech, and communications information technology, and that basically all other industries should look elsewhere because they're not strategic to Canada. And I would say, having listened to that and watched it for the last 8 years, they've stayed right on course with what they said they were going to do. Any SR&ED claims in those fields are easy. They're very seldom challenged. But try doing claims in industries like manufacturing or other ones like that, huge scrutiny. Scrutiny like I've never seen before. And really almost a bias against those industries in what I'd say. Okay? And now we'll talk at the same time a new BDC loan program. So very quickly here, a breakdown of the stats for the economics of industry. So where are the R&D staff according to the federal Department of Finance and Department of Industry's numbers that roughly in 2014, roughly 30% of all R&D jobs are in manufacturing, 35% in services, and around just almost 25% in IT, and really insubstantial amounts in any other field. So 3 fields, as we said, make up almost all of the SR&ED and really the employment force for that. What I'm finding is that manufacturing seems to be the hardest hit with new CRA administrative policies or whatever. That those are the claims that tend to undergo the most scrutiny or the highest level of scrutiny, and software being a close second because it's hard to envision or clearly enunciate what's an advancement in software as opposed to a lot of other industries that are more tolerance-driven. That's just my personal opinion, though. So I think we have questions on each of those if you guys agree or disagree, if you want to fill that out. Okay, so they talk about, and they don't really publish the numbers. It's really hard to go into the Department of Finance. I've downloaded all the budgets. They don't tell you exactly what the SR&ED numbers are in each of those budgets. You really got to dig and work backwards. But basically, the most relevant numbers I can find talk about $4.1 billion and 25,000 claimants in 2007, and the program's actually decreasing. In 2012, we're talking 3.6 billion and 23,000, and I think it's actually going down even more. If you looked at the numbers now, I believe they'd be lower. So you're on a down swing. And I've read 4 or 5 other articles that basically say that they estimate roughly $500 million to $1 billion a year has gone from SR&ED into grants or direct funding, which allow politicians to do handshakes and photo ops and all the cool stuff that goes along with having that discretion. Concurrently with this, there's been a drastic increase in the number of objections. All the objections for Ontario are now handled through or circulated through Toronto West and then allocated out to other places to deal with them. And on talking to the administrator there, I believe he said the last on this list there was 583 objections. So there's roughly 600 objections. When we look at the total number of claimants, that's an astronomical amount. So if we say roughly, 40% of the SR&ED in Canada might be in Ontario, less than half. 600 claimants is a huge, huge proportion. And when you think of that and really extrapolate it, I estimate that out of every claim that's denied, maybe 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 people actually go through the rigmarole of filing the objection process and doing that. A lot of just throw up their hands, okay, I'm not going to bother, let's go on and do business. Okay? So if there's 600 objections, I'm going to guess that 4 times that number of claims were denied, or roughly 2,500 claims in a field of maybe maximum 10,000 claims. So 25% of claims are being knocked out for various reasons. Claims that were previously 100% successful are now 0% successful. And it's created a lot of confusion in the industry. So I'm getting feedback from people. If we looked on the LinkedIn groups from right across the country, I'm not saying this is an Ontario problem or a Quebec problem or a Halifax problem or a Newfoundland problem, every practitioners that I talk to in every single province are unanimously saying the same thing. I had very senior practitioners, guys I've dealt with 20 years, who I think really practice at a very high level, say things like, I don't know what SR&ED means anymore. And they're serious. They're saying, I have claims that are being rejected that are the most strong evidence of SR&ED I've ever seen, and others that I think are weaker are being assessed as filed. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not like CRA's got tight controls to really make sure the eligible ones get through. It's almost like CRA's got tight controls to make sure some never get through and others get through no matter what. I'm not sure, but that's just the interpretation that many people have reiterated to me. And in certain situations on my own clients, I can show real fact scenarios to support that.
Is there priority for bigger or smaller companies?
What do you mean by priority?
A larger company, when you see the decline,
Yes.
do you have any sense of whether it's the smaller claimants or the larger claimants?
My experience, and I'll throw this out to the group, I can only talk about my personal experience. I think there's a huge difference. The 20%ers or the big companies, and there's only 4,000 of them, the guys who claim 2/3 of the total dollars, there's 4,000 large companies. And the little guys, there's lots of them, but they're only really 1/3 of the total payout each year. I think the big guys, because they had their rate reduced to 15% from 20%, are being handled with, I call it kit gloves. I never see them run into any problems. They can submit descriptions, in my opinion, that would never, ever pass for the small guy. And they'll be rubber stamped because there's not a lot of money in their big companies, they've got a lot of resources. It's really the little guy who's being scrutinized, the small and medium-sized companies that are really our growth companies, but are really being strangled on this, particularly in manufacturing.
The big companies, I don't think are challenged because they don't represent usually current year's cash, because most of the claims that go through are carry forwards of the ITCs in a subsequent year.
I can't speculate on the why.
There was stats in the Jenkins report stuff prepared by the Treasury Department with the Treasury, which indicated most claims that most of the dollars that go out are subsequent to the year in which they occurred. And
That's true. Because it's a non-refundable credit, they're saying a large amount of the credits they announce aren't actually paid out until future years when they become profitable.
so there's no incentive for CRA to go after some of them.
Yeah, I would say that may be part of it, as well as the fact that these companies often have a lot of resources that are willing. They're willing to fight. They're willing to put up resistance, and if they win, they can create a lot of problem for the CRA. Whereas the smaller claimant really doesn't have that amount of clout. Is there sort of yes?
I know CRA feels it has been burnt by large numbers of small claimants who used to get under the radar. So they're now reviewing all new claimants, no matter how big, how small the claimant is. And they're also looking at anybody who hasn't claimed for 2 years and putting them in that category.
Those are valid risk procedures, I would say. I have no problem with CRA reviewing whatever they want and making sure that things meet the criteria. I guess the issues that practitioners are coming up with, and I can support some of them, is really the fact that they're not applying the law equivocally to all claimants. And that's, if they applied the law fairly and equivocally and knocked the people out who shouldn't, I don't think we'd be complaining. The complaints that people are coming up with is they're knocking out claims that are solid claims for rationale that's not understood by the practitioners. And that's really the thing that they're saying, well, I'm giving professional advice and now I think I'm right and CRA is telling me I'm wrong and I don't understand their rationale. I don't agree with it, I don't understand it. And what does that mean for future claims? Like, should I quit? Should I give up? I thought I was doing this job properly for 20 years and now I know nothing.
It is statistic, I remember, and I think that the earlier seminars, that Quebec has an unbelievably inordinate rate of, how should I phrase it, successful R&D in both dollars and percentages. Am I right or wrong?
That's correct. If you look at the provincial funding, Quebec puts in more of the total provinces. Quebec represents 60% of all provincial funding. They're more than all the other provinces put together. I mean, Quebec, for a small company, will give almost 40% refundable credit on wages. And even for big companies, I think it's 17.5 to 20%. So ridiculous. Oh, at the federal level?
The federal end of the R&D.
Oh, at the federal end, the federal credits in Quebec are the same. The federal credits are federal credits. I believe the stats that I heard are 45% of SR&ED credits are earned in Ontario, 40% in Quebec, and 15% in the rest of Canada. And it's almost distributed equally between Maritimes and West. So Quebec and Ontario are the majority, the lion's share of all the research.
What's the population difference between Quebec and Ontario?
I'd have to run those numbers, but
What I'm trying to say is,
they're proportional, I guess.
I believe that, the logic is that in the same way as with tax, regular tax cases, perhaps CRED is going for the low-hanging fruit, means that they figure they're not going to be able to put much of a fight.
See, Quebec is a very interesting kind of case study too. That when I look at it, if I was in finance developing the rules, I would do it the way Quebec does. I wouldn't follow our system. Quebec's got a great vision. They say, who cares where you buy your materials? That doesn't create any employment. Who cares where you buy it? We're only going to pay you for Quebec wages. Bring in people and make high-tech people stay in Quebec by paying them lots of money, and that's going to help our economy. And they're right, it has. They have all kinds of provisions, like if you hire a foreign person with a master's degree or equivalent in an accredited university, and you file an election, they don't pay personal income tax in Quebec for 5 years. I mean, all kinds of stuff that no other province even thinking about those kinds. But brilliant. I mean, it's working for them. So, I mean, other than the language barrier, they're ahead of all of us. That's probably the only hurdle they have to getting good international teams to locate there. Okay, moving on. BDC loan. I haven't dealt with this, but I just became aware of it in the last couple of weeks. So this month, BDC announced a new loan of up to $250,000. And you can be a first-time claimant. Now, what they're saying is, if you're a first-time claimant, we're going to look to your advisor, and we're going to review the claim and maybe do our own due diligence. But they'll lend you up to 125% of prior amounts if you've had at least one successful claim, or even 100% of the amount on a first-time claim. And, some very interesting terms. So if you're interested, I haven't tried the program. I just became aware of it about a week and a half ago. So I said, I'll mention it in our practitioner session and see if it works.